All right, we're on here. All right, how we doing, guys? This is the Marvel Madness Comics podcast. My name is Brandon. My co-hosts here are Carl and Trevitt. How we doing, guys?
Good, man.
Pretty good.
All right, and again, what we do for you guys is we bring you 3 to 4 Marvel books each week. We provide you a quick glimpse into the Marvel comic book universe. We keep you up to date on some of the latest news, titles, fun facts, and things going on in the Earth Prime 616, whatever the hell they're calling it nowadays. Again, just on the comic end of things, don't really touch on the movies here for you. What we do is we break the books up into 3 different families. We're each responsible for one of those 3 families, and mine particular being the Spider family, Carl being the Hero family, and Trevitt being the X-Men and Human family. And then we usually throw a group effort in together on the event books to keep you informed. But this week it's going to be just a little different because I had no Spider books, surprisingly, to choose from. So we just went with Secret Empire for me. And we'll get a little more in depth on that than we normally do. So with all that being said, if you guys looking to contact us out there, share any thoughts, nonsense, suggestions, whatever's on your marvelous mind, you can reach out to us at Carl's going to have to double check me here. I think I got it all right this week, though. marvelmadnesspod@gmail.com would be our email address. At MadnessMarvel1 on Twitter. You can follow us there for any news, updates, things we're doing. And then last but not least, if you're obviously listening to the podcast now, but you could get it on Podbean, iTunes, any of those podcast catchers out there. Just simply type in Marvel Madness. So I did a lot of work this weekend to make sure when you type in Marvel Madness, you pop up. So that should be all good to go now. So with that being said, anything you guys want to bring up before we get into the news and things going on here, or what?
I got nothing.
Nothing?
Nah, man. Just make sure that all those are listening to rate, review us on iTunes, Podbean, wherever you listen to us at, so we can spread the word even further.
I meant to print it out and attach it to the show notes here, but we did get one on iTunes, one review. So keep those coming. We'll get those together. We'll read those on air next week for you guys. But with that being said, it is 10 o'clock here late on Sunday night, and I finally am over my hangover. It was a rough morning for me. That's all I have to share regarding that. But Trevor, why don't you take over the news section of things? People are sick of hearing from me. Let's hear what you got for us. What'd you find out this week as far as Marvel Comics stuff goes?
All right, I thumbed through Newsarama and Bleeding Cool until my eyes bled, and there was nothing really that interesting. The only thing I found somewhat exciting was the announcement of the Generations creative teams and who those books are going to follow. So I got them in a list. Here they go. The first one is called The Strongest. It's starring Bruce Banner and Amadeus Cho. It's by Greg Pak, the czar of Hulk, because he's been doing Incredible Hulk for a long time, and now Totally Awesome Hulk, World War Hulk, and all that. And the art is going to be by Matteo. Oh God, I don't know.
See, this is why I'm surprised you picked this news time. You got to go through all these fucking crazy artist names and shit here,
right? It's Matteo Buffagani, something like that.
I don't even have it in front of me to help you.
I'm gonna go with Buffagani or something Italian. So, and then after that we got The Phoenix, starring The Phoenix and Jean Grey, written by Cullen Bunn, with art by R.B. Silva, who is doing art on X-Men Gold right now.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have The Best, starring Wolverine and X-23, aka the all-new Wolverine, written by Tom Taylor, who does Wolverine, and art by Ramon Rosanas, who's now doing The Mighty Captain Marvel, previously did Ant-Man and Astonishing Ant-Man. Then we have The Thunder, starring the Mighty Thor and the Unworthy Thor, written by Jason Aaron, the man who's been doing amazing Thor books for the past 4 or 5 years, 5, 6 years, something like that, with art by Mahmoud Asar, who, I think he's doing the art in Totally Awesome Hulk right now. I think that's him. And then after that, we have The Archers, starring both Hawkeyes, Clint Barton and Kate Bishop, written by Kelly Thompson, who's currently writing the Kate Bishop Hawkeye book, with art by Stefano Raffaelli, who I have no clue who that is.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of these artists that you keep saying. Like, I haven't really. There's not that artist that you're like, oh, I know who that is, you know?
Yeah, there's really not. And it continues like that, too, with like some artists you might have heard of, but, you know, you haven't seen them do too much, or other artists that you've just never heard of, which is pretty crazy. Next up, we have The Bravest, starring Captain Marvel and Captain Marvel, written by Margie Stoll, who's writing The Mighty Captain Marvel right now, with art by Brent Schoonover, who I don't know who that is. I've never seen him write a book. And then we have The Marvels, starring Captain Marvel again and Miss Marvel. And that's written by G. Willow Wilson, who writes Miss Marvel.
I wonder if Captain Marvel has a movie coming out.
Yeah, she does. And,
well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, in 2019. What is it?
Fucking books, probably.
Is it 2019 or is it 2020 that her movie's coming out? It's
Mm.
one of those. I know Brie Larson's playing her, but that's all I know. Which is a pretty good choice. You know, you got an Oscar award-winning actress playing Captain Marvel. It's pretty dope. There's no art listed on that book, so I don't know if they just. I mean, they announced everybody else, so I'm guessing they just don't have an artist for it yet, which seemed kind of weird. But okay. After that, we got The Iron, starring Iron Man and Ironheart, which sounds pretty cool, even though they kind of star together in Invincible Iron Man already anyway. Written by Brian Michael Bendis, of course, because he's the Iron Man guy right now, writing both titles, Infamous and Invincible, and art by Marco Rudy, who I also don't know who that is. I looked up the art. It's not bad, but
yeah.
No clue.
I don't know either.
After that, we got The Spiders, starring Peter Parker Spider-Man and Miles Morales Spider-Man. So everyone's going to get there. You know, if you have a hard-on for a team-up between Miles and Peter, you're going to get it this summer, because not only do we have Generations, but we also have Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, which this makes this issue kind of like redundant.
It really does.
Yeah,
it really does.
Doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, they maybe should have did I don't know, somebody else, or maybe Kane and Scarlet Spider or something. I don't know, just something different instead of what we were already getting. Because I don't even know if that series will be over by the time this comes out. So it's like confusion.
Ben and Miles, right? Because like you're supposed to be bringing someone new, which Miles isn't and Peter isn't. You're supposed to be introducing one of the new diverse characters with one of the older characters who has been put to bed. And in this instance, it makes no sense. But
yeah, I know.
And then the same goes for the next book, which is The Americas, starring Steve Rogers, Captain America, and Sam Wilson, Captain America, which, you know, really isn't all that special because it happens all the fucking time.
I
know. Written by King Cocksucker himself, Nick Spencer, with art by Paul Renard.
Yeah.
There
we go. Is that it?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, I'll probably get like 2 of them. Like, I might get the Spider-Man one, even though I just made fun of it for being fucking redundant, and maybe the Wolverine one, you know.
The Wolverine's a definite, and the Thor one, even though they're together all the time in their books.
Yeah.
It all
some of those, just like Thor's not dead. Like, if you want to do the whole dead thing, bring people back. I'm not even sure that's what this really is. So
I don't think it is either, because what I heard it is they're gonna, you know, it's a time displaced version of the character. So it'll be like a time displaced version of Peter. Maybe Peter before he even knew anything about Miles and Miles. It'll be the old Mighty Thor from like, well, maybe like Kurt Busiek Avengers Day, you know, with Jane Foster Thor. So like people who have no idea who they are with you know, the person who's carrying on their legacy.
Yeah. What about you, Carl? Which one you'd be interested in if you had to pick, like, I don't know, say 2 out of all those?
If I had to pick 2, it would probably be the Iron and the Americas.
Yeah.
Because right now the Iron Man, infamous Iron, or Incredible Iron Man
Invincible.
book. Yeah. I'm going to say
the other I word.
Until I get it right. The Invincible Iron Man book has been really good, and I've been trudging along the Steve Rogers Captain America and Sam Wilson Captain America train. So I'm going to keep going with that Generations book.
Yeah.
Shocked at how good those books are.
Both the Bravest and the Marvels I could care less about.
Yeah.
Like, if I pick 2 to just flush down the toilet, it'd be those 2.
I think they're gonna have a hard time. I totally agree, and I think they're gonna have a real hard time pushing those books, like Marvel and Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel. Meh.
Yeah, and just like everybody's just wants to take a giant shit on Captain Marvel right now because she just pretty much killed Tony for, argument's sake in Civil War. So like nobody's really on the Carol train right now. So it's weird they put her in 2. But anyway. That's kind of all the news we had for you guys this week. Like Trevor said, kind of a light week as far as that goes. But if you guys find any newsworthy items that you want to hear us highlight or talk about, send them to Twitter or send them to the email, and we'll be happy to throw them in there if we're missing things that you think we should be mentioning that we're not giving some spotlight. So we're open to adding some things like that if you guys want to communicate with us. But with that being said, why don't we move on to the book section of things? And Carl is going to take it from here as we talk about Generation X #1. I'll give you the solicit real quick, and you can give us the creative team and the summary of the book, and then you can let us know what you think about it as far as buy, borrow, or forget it altogether goes, which is, of course, how we rate these books on a scale of. There's no 1 to 10 or anything like that here. We tell you if you should buy it, if you should borrow it from a friend because it's all right, or if you should ignore it altogether because it is some hot garbage is basically the scale that we rate things on here. But anyway, Generation X #1, it's going to take place at the Xavier Institute for Mutant Education and Outreach, which has opened its doors and is ready to foster the next generation of heroes and diplomats. However, this time around, the X-Men recognize an unfortunate truth: not all mutants are created equal. Some mutants are not made to fight Sentinels or serve as ambassadors on behalf of their kind. Some will just be lucky to survive another day in a world that hates and fears them. And who better to mentor these mutants' lovable losers than perpetual sidekick Jubilee? But will Jubilee and Generation X survive this experience? Carl, why don't you tell us about that? What's going on here in this book? Who's writing it? Who's drawing it? And what's happening in these pages?
Actually, I'm doing.
Yeah, Trevor, do you want to take it?
Dude, I am, like I said, I drank a lot last night. I am still
no worries.
My head was clear, but no, it's not. This is Trevitt's book. I think I'm confused because me and Carl were talking about which ones to do first, and then I think we settled on Generation X without really your input, so that's why I'm thinking it's his book. But Trevitt, my friend, why don't you go ahead and tell us about Generation X?
All right. So the writer on this book is Christina Strain, who I've never heard of before. The artist is Amilcar Pina, who I've also never heard of. Colorist of Felipe Sabarero or something like that. Sabarero. I can't pronounce it. And letterer is a familiar name, is VC's Clayton Cowles.
He letters every goddamn comic book ever.
He really does. He really does. And cover artist is Terry Dodson and Rachel Dodson, who I kind of wish did the art on the inside.
He probably makes a killing because he works constantly.
Yeah, he does. He's always doing covers, always doing variants, and doesn't do series much anymore, which is a damn shame, but what are you going to do? I also wish he was doing this, but we'll get to that later. So we start off at Central Park with Jubilee and Jono, who's an X-Man that I've never heard of before, but apparently he's been around for a long time. They're chasing her son Shogo, who has wandered off. While all this is going on, we're getting a monologue about how she is so irresponsible, and at this point in her life, she wishes that she would have had her shit together, but she doesn't.
Yeah, which is weird when you're responsible for another human being to lose it.
Yeah.
Like her friend is not taking it too seriously. Jubilee's kind of flipping out, but her inner monologue is just fucking. It feels like she's just aloof. You know what I'm saying? She's weird.
No, it really does.
She's never a character I've been smitten by.
No, me neither. She's pointless, to be honest. Her powers aren't even that great, but fireworks. But reasons for the monologue. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Carl.
No, her powers aren't just fireworks. They are still pointless, but it's plasma beam. She could blow a hole through anything.
Okay, is that what it's called?
Shiny
plasma?
firework. Plasma.
Yeah, plasma fireworks. I was gonna put that in for one of the facts, but I was like, no, because it's still her powers are pointless.
Yeah, they really are. They really are. I mean, I've seen her take a Sentinel's head off once, but other than that, she's always the damsel. But reasons for the monologue. Well, it's because she's late for her job at the Xavier Institute. As we get our last frame of her dash towards the entrance, we cut to a new character, who is Nathaniel Carver. As he enters the school, we get a flash of some familiar faces along the way. We get Kid Apocalypse, Null, Glob, a few others from Extraordinary X-Men and All New X-Men, respectively. But right before he runs in, he knocks over one of the Cuckoo Sisters, who I didn't recognize because her hair is dyed red and she kind of looks like Jean Grey. Me and Brandon were talking
she looks exactly like Jean Grey.
Yeah. When they collide, he touches her, and then we get a look at his powers. He gets a vision of her origins, and then we get a quick psychic conversation that reveals that his power is called psychometry, and that sheds light as to why he's wearing gloves, because he walks in and he's got a short sleeve shirt kind of, but he's wearing gloves, which just seems kind of weird. After their brief exchange of not so pleasantries, she gives him some advice about where he needs to go and how to get there, but another student walks by who's Benjamin Deeds, and one of the Cuckoo Sisters, I think it's Phoebe, pawns him off on Deeds. And at this point, we cut back and forth a lot. So at this point, we cut back to Jubilee, and we're in Kitty's office where she says she's sorry for being late on her first day.
Kitty looks like Hillary Clinton here.
She really does. All that.
Yeah, she does not look like Kitty Pryde at all. Partially because she doesn't have her uniform on and she's got some suit, lady suit on. But yeah, I'm like, is this fucking Hillary Clinton? What the hell's going on?
It's the Hillary Clinton of the Xavier Institute. She's the Hillary Clinton from Mutants.
She did used to be like the governor of New York or something. So they are in New York. I don't know.
That makes sense. So she comes in, she says she's sorry for being late. They have an exchange over where they've been, what they've been up to, how they're doing, and all that nonsense. It's really not that interesting, so I'm just going to spare the details on this right now. And then we cut back to Ben Deeds and Nathaniel. Ben is explaining the origin of the Cuckoo Sisters to Nathaniel, which I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know this either. I've never looked into the Cuckoo Sisters. I've just kind of accepted their existence and read stories they've been featured in, but never cared to learn their origins. It was interesting.
No, neither did I. I didn't know that they were clones of Jesus. Why is her name the
Emma
White
Frost?
Emma Frost. Yeah, I didn't know that they were clones of Emma Frost. I knew they did look like her, and they were always with her, and she always takes responsibility for them. But I had no idea that they were basically like her daughters. Yeah,
that was news to me.
But he's explaining to them, his why they're so crazy and why they're so intense while they walk down the hall. And then all of a sudden, Ben morphs into Nathaniel and quickly apologizes for it and blames it on his uniform for some reason, which, makes no sense. I felt like the writer was just writing dialogue just to write dialogue. Like, oh, my face changed. This damn uniform. Like, what does that have to do with anything? At this point, I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, this fucking book blows. But, I actually wrote that down.
It gets worse when Quentin comes into play here.
It so gets worse.
Oh yes, let's get to the $1 million loafers.
I was like, he blames it on his uniform. A joke is made. Cue the laugh track, and then out of nowhere, Bling and Quentin Quire friggin' crash through the wall at this point, and I'm thinking, finally, some fucking action, right?
No.
And they start trading insults towards each other, and with this, we learn it's all about Bling ruining Quentin's new pair of shoes that he waited 6 months for, and nobody gives a shit about. And then out of nowhere, fucking Eye-Boy, what the fuck is that? In Nature Girl, some girl who has half a horn on the side of her head, like seriously, they show up and try to stop Quentin for reasons that are unexplained. And he keeps screaming about these fucking $10,000 shoes that nobody gives a fuck about. Sorry, Christina Strain, but you wrote a shit story with shit art. Like, what do you want me to say? The new kid, Nathaniel, I'm gonna call him Nathan from here on out. He tackles Quentin, and Quentin in return punches him in the face, which the psychometry kicks in because he touched his skin. And we get a view of Quentin's backstory that nobody really gives a shit about at this point, and it doesn't really tell us anything. It just shows us a few flashes of stuff that's happened in Quentin's life. We see like a Phoenix suit and blah blah blah.
He always feels outcast. Whatever.
Yeah, he always feels outcast, and he's like a very witty, sarcastic dick. But and he's rich apparently, and that we find more on that later. Because Kitty comes in, and she breaks up the fight. And then, oh God, so bad. She breaks up the fight with all this nonsense. Nathan says, "Fuck this, I'm out." He can't take it. He's like, "This school sucks," and he walks out of this destroyed classroom. And at that point, Jubilee, who I did not know was teaching this class because the last time we saw her was in Kitty's office.
I know.
Class. Like, who knew? And then, shit, drop my mic. So then Kitty holds Quentin back into the class for like a stern talking to. And we get a little info here that I had a question in X-Men Gold, who's paying for all this shit? And it turns out Quentin made a sizable donation to the Xavier School and all their operations up until, I guess, this point, because Kitty informs him that the money's gone. He's paying for it. But at the same time, even though he paid for all this shit, she still threatens to boot him out of the school for being a dick and tells him that he has to prove himself that he wants to be there, and just leaves him in the class with the mess to clean up. Yeah. Now, like, some talking happens in between here, but nothing of consequence, so I skipped by it. And then we cut outside. Because Jubilee's chasing after Nathan, trying to quell his nerves and get him. She
teaches with her child in her hands, by the way.
She's definitely a teen mom. White trash. Well, she's not white, Asian, but trashy teen mom holding the baby in class, this is 2 + 2 = 4. How did I get here? I was just in the office 5 minutes ago.
Still has different colored fucking shoes on, like a hot mess.
But so she's trying to calm him down. She's telling him every day is not like this. Shit's gonna calm down. This is like the first day. Just chill. Come back inside. It'll be cool. And then the new kids are all talking shit about him, saying the kid didn't even unpack. Who gives a shit? Let him bounce. Whatever. And then all of a sudden someone calls out Jubilee's name, and you see the bunch of the purifiers show up, and then the issue ends. What a pile of shit.
Yes, this was not a good comic book.
Oh God!
Oh my God, this was so bad. So yeah, Trevitt, why don't you tell us if you would buy, borrow, or forget this comic book altogether?
I would not buy this. I bought this piece of shit, and I want to smack myself for buying it because it's garbage. I would not recommend it to anybody. Stay the fuck away from it. If anybody tells you it's good, slap them. Just forget about it. That's it. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. There is a I'll go next. There's a 9.5 on Comic Book Roundup for this book. There's an 8.1 and 8.0. There's 3 8.0s. So those people are on drugs. Don't read those reviews. This is not a good book. The art is all right at some points, but in the beginning, Jubilee looks like she's gonna eat her child.
So
it's just bad. Don't buy it. Forget it altogether. Carl, what do you think?
So I'm on board with all of you. I'm gonna forget it altogether. But So is she a vampire still? Because there's like
Yeah, I think
pages where
so.
she shows her full teeth and there's no fangs, and then there's one page where she's got fangs.
I didn't
Yeah.
even mention the vampire.
And then she's giving her baby a bottle of blood instead of her.
Yeah, that was the two
Formula.
things that made me think she's still a vampire. So I think she is.
I mean, that was the only questions I had for the entire book. The rest of it I just like trashed. I flew through it. I didn't read this one more than half the time I actually read it.
Yeah, yeah. The only redeeming quality is the art is decent in some instances,
Some
but
frames, yeah.
yeah, that's about it.
Oh, God.
So yeah, guys, that's a universal forget it altogether. Fuck that book. We're gonna move on to something that couldn't be in any way worse. Luke Cage, #1. And this is Carl's book, if I'm not mistaken.
This one is mine.
So,
I'll tell you
yeah.
something though. This book better get canceled. I mean, Black Panther and the Crew is nowhere. That issue #1 was nowhere near as bad as this, and this book better fucking get canceled after issue #2. Like seriously, just like
Yeah,
that.
it deserves a garbage can. Some of the people towards the bottom of the review scale get what's going on. Like IGM and Comic Crusaders gave it 4s.
That
So
9.5
there, what's up?
AIPT, they give like 9s and 10s to fucking everything. They're always at the top of the reviews in Comic Book Roundup.
Yeah, they probably just like getting clicks that way. I don't know. Not to mention Jubilee looks like a version of Squirrel Girl in Jubilee cosplay on the front cover. So, all right, enough of Generation X #1. Carl, take away Luke Cage. You got the solicit up in front of you or no?
Yeah, I
Give
got
people
it.
the summary. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't got the summary. If you got the solicit up, I've got just
All
the
right.
writer stuff.
Yeah. I'll give you guys an introduction to Luke Cage #1. This is a new series here, obviously starring Luke Cage. Currently separated from Iron Fist in their book where they were recently teamed up, which ended at issue 16 and was actually pretty good. So there was a little bit of hype coming into this based on the same person, David Walker, which Carl will get to. Sorry for stepping on your toes there. Writing the previous series, just kind of, doing a good job with Luke Cage. So with that being said, Caged Vengeance. Dr. Noah Bernstein, the man who made Luke Cage into the unbreakable hero he is today, is dead. So when Luke goes down to visit New Orleans for the funeral, he finds the Big Easy to be pretty. This is a swear word with a whole bunch of different symbols. Difficult. Mysterious billionaires, a woman with a secret, amped up gangs, and a shadowy figure all lead Luke to the conclusion that he's more to his father figure's death than meets the eye. He's looking for answers, and it's a bad day for anyone in his way. Carl, who's writing it? Who's drawing it? And should we buy, borrow, forget this altogether after your summary? Why don't you let us know?
All right. So the writer for this is David F. Walker. We've got artists of Nelson Blake II, color artists of Marcio Menez, and then letters are by VC's Joe Sabino. So this issue starts off with Luke Cage doing a job to save a girl who was kidnapped because her boyfriend owes a dude $5,000. He was hired by her parents to bring her back. So after getting to the bar, secret hideout type place,
Yeah,
for this gangster, he pays the lady at the door the money that he's going to destroy the property for, and continues on his way to rescue this girl. He beats up a bunch of guys, gets some bullets to the chest, busts in the door, and she's all like, "No, you don't have to do this. My boyfriend's gonna pay the ransom. We're gonna get out of here. We're grown-ups now." And he's like, "Darling, your boyfriend skipped town after telling your parents about the ransom." And he's like, "So what's this all about?" Guy says, "I need my $5,000." He said, $5,000. This is all it's about. If I would have known that, I would have just paid you $5,000 and not wasted my time busting at people's asses through here. He's like, "Really?" Nope. Flicks him in the forehead and flings him across the room. Takes,
Yeah, I like
takes,
that part.
Me too.
that was hilarious. Takes the girl back to her parents, and then gets a phone call from I've got the name written down. Dr. Lenore Mornay, who
Yeah.
informs him that the guy that did the experiments on him in prison, Dr. Noah Bernstein, has died. So he hops on a plane, flies to New Orleans, and we go next to the funeral. You get a little bit of a monologue where he basically is saying, I hear the words, but after, you know, I don't have the words written down. But he's listening to it. He basically doesn't even hear what's going on. And after it's all said and done, Dr. Lenore wants him to meet some people. So for some reason, which the stay is short, he goes to meet with
Just some rich family, really,
some
kind
rich
of.
family, Cyril and Caleb. Caleb had some Cyril had Caleb had some uncurable disease that Dr. Bernstein used the formula that he created off of the experiments done on Luke in the prison to cure him. So he's cured of his incurable disease, which normally people who get this procedure gets superpowers. Did you guys see anything where it said he had any kind of manifestation of superpowers or going
No,
crazy?
he looked like he had goddamn crazy eyes. Like,
Yeah, he did. He looked a little.
he looked all pissed, like he wouldn't talk on the couch. Just his dad did all the talking, right?
Yeah, his dad did
Yeah.
all the talking.
That's when they
But
got into the side effect talk too, right? Which made me think he was a little nuts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where I went with it. I for sure thought he was just bonkers.
and then basically after Cyril or Cyril basically calls him an experiment, calls Luke an experiment. He's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm done. I got to go. So Dr. Lenore's driving him back to his hotel where she basically starts saying, oh, yeah, I don't think Dr. Bernstein killed himself. He's done all these great things. Why would he kill himself? I think he was murdered. Before she can actually say that, though, this minivan runs them off the road. They crash into a tree. And, Luke hops out and they say, hey, walk away. We don't want you. We're not going to give you another chance. We just want the doctor. Go on your way. Luke strips off his jacket, takes his tie off, and says, well, come to the wrong party. He goes to start fighting. This guy in the ski mask, or
I called it the Cobra Commander mask.
all right, we'll call it the Cobra Commander mask. He hits Luke, and he's like, I've been hit by a lot of things, and I've been hit by the Hulk, been hit by all these big galactic things, and this guy hits harder than they do. So they get into a sparring match while they're fighting. The rest of the goons grab Dr. Lenore and are getting ready to pull her away. Well, then the guy in the Cobra Commander mask pulls out his snake sword, whip sword type thing.
Yeah, it's like a whip sword. That's what we were calling it, I think.
And swings at Luke, and it makes him bleed. And he's like, by the time that I realized that this is really happening, it was too late. I was in over my head, and he's getting his ass handed to him. And in rolls this old red car, swings in, knocks out the guys. Guy hops out shooting, and basically saves the day. And I forgot to mention that. I'll talk about it here in a second. The guy that saves them, he is
Mitchell Tanner.
He's Mitchell Tanner. In the background, when they're at the funeral and they're walking away, you see some guy in this exact same outfit staring at them as they're walking away. So it looks like Mitchell's been keeping an eye on them. Which Mitchell Tanner is the first person to receive the experiment from Noah Bernstein, which is why he calls Luke Cage big little brother as he saves him.
Yeah.
Takes him up to safety.
They also mention, when he's in the car with the doctor at one point, how he's Looney Tunes.
Yeah. He went crazy. He was saved in Vietnam by Dr. Bernstein, and everything he did since then, he's gone a little bit more and more crazy.
Yeah, he's got like granite skin. So basically, he's got the same powers as Luke, but his skin has been dyed the color and like literally is granite. So
Yeah.
I like the explanation too. With they call it the amygdala distortive syndrome, and it's like the genetic regeneration effects for his key neurotransmitters are to his amygdala are directly affected. It's the part of the brain that controls emotions, so it results in like bursts of rage and maybe sadness, which also leads to bursts of rage. I got the feeling that guy Cyril wanted like a piece of Luke Cage, because when he was saying that he was his he was like, his pride in you was understated. You are his perfect experiment. And then he says, within your genes lie endless possibilities. And like, it really says something to the artist, because when you look at the guy's face, he kind of has this look on his face, like just creepy, like he's up to something. Like,
yeah, he does look like he's totally up to something,
doesn't he? Like, if I had your genes, the possibilities of what I could do is like a lot going on in here.
Yeah, because I think his deal, now that we talk about it again, I think his deal is that he's seen that it works on his son. He sees that it works on Luke Cage, and he'd rather have the Luke Cage effects than the effects his son had, which didn't apparently give him superpowers and is making him crazy, despite the fact it healed him from
an incurable disease.
Yeah, Lou Gehrig type disease. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but anyway, with that one being, we finished it with that cliffhanger of Mitchell Tanner. What do you think about the book overall there?
So for a book that I wasn't interested in when it was first coming out, I figured they were just overplaying the fact that Luke Cage was a semi-popular show for Netflix. I found myself totally enjoying the book. It probably had something to do more with the art, with how beautifully this was laid out, than the story, but the story was also so interesting in drawing that it just pulled me through the whole thing. It's a buy for me. I just love this book.
Yeah. Trevor, how about you? What do you think?
I think this is diversity at its best. I think when Marvel went out of its way to get new women, new men, like they have all these great characters that are already black, that are already women, and this is a case of them bringing one of their great characters to the forefront and giving it good writing, great art. The action sequences looked great. It's very clean. It's the type of art I want in every book. We were talking about it earlier, like why the fuck can't Avengers have art like this? Like it looks great. The story keeps me intrigued. The more I look at it, the more I look at the art and the facial expressions, I see there's a lot more to it than I initially thought when I first read it. I wasn't interested in this book, which I think made me like it a lot more, because whenever I seem to have little to no expectations in a book, when I like it a lot, I love it. Instead of if I had good expectations for it, I'd probably just like it, Yeah. But this is a total buy for me. It's everything that Marvel should be doing, like working with what they have. Yeah, with every book, working with what they have and making it the best they can make it, instead of throwing the good stuff away and bringing in new crap. So I like this book a lot.
Yeah, so overall I kind of agree with everything you guys said. Like it is interesting. I had a few issues with like the way the story was told and the way things went down, but it doesn't mean it was done poorly or done bad. Like just probably things that'll be alleviated as far as my concerns later on in the series. Just some of like the forced like foreshadowing in there was just a little weird and stood out to me. I did enjoy I need to slow down and say this right, because I was screwing it up big time earlier. Power Man and Iron Fist series. I like that series a lot, and I just like how Danny and Luke play off each other. That just is like missing in this series. He's just, every conversation he has is like a serious conversation, and there's not much levity. So I just miss the previous series that was, just something I enjoyed a little more. So this currently would be a borrow for me, but I could see that changing with future issues. And like I said, it's a borrow for me right now, but I do want to see what the next issue would be like and see if some of my story concerns go away.
It's a borrow with an option to buy in the future.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like Travis said, I wasn't pumped about reading it when it was presented to us, but I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. So that is also like where my mind is, but I just can't move it from the borrow category right now. That's just where I think about it.
I do agree the Tanner stuff was a little forced. It really was.
Yeah,
it really was a little forced.
Yeah, the Mitchell Tanner stuff came out of you see this dude.
Field.
Yeah, you see this dude in the cemetery, which is fine. Like that happens in comics all the time. Someone watching you from a distance. But then she just randomly brings him up when they're in the car, and then he randomly comes and saves them just in time. It was just weird. And that did affect a little of my enjoyment. So
I wonder if that's what this whole series is going to be about, is them finding the rest of Noah's experiments and getting them to toe the line. Is this a miniseries or is it ongoing?
It's an ongoing as far as I can tell.
Yeah, it's an ongoing. Oh, look at that. I didn't realize that. So I've never heard of Nelson Blake before, but I looked up some of his art, and I think he's done Skyward. I've never heard of any of these books.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's coming from Dynamite or
smaller indie labels. And this is an all African American creative team: David F. Walker and Nelson Blake. So yeah, it was pretty good, and I can't move it from borrow yet. Well, maybe in the future, maybe we'll cover it again, and I'll change my mind. But
check out issue 2 next month.
Yeah, that'll knock out our first 2 books of the night. We're going to take a quick break, get to the midpoint Marvelous Facts before we wrap things up with Secret Empire 2 and we get out of your hair for the week. So stay tuned and listen to this, and we'll be back. All right, I'm going to send you guys a new request here, so it's easier for me to just edit things that way.
Cool. I've never heard of any of these books that he's on.
Yeah, he does some.
But the art is great.
You're going to get a new email here from me, or a new invite.
Let me minimize the screen.